You're on.
All right, so Coach Slack here with Sophie from Florida, very talented wrestler I've been working with for getting to know over the last few months. Made a trip down to Florida, spent some time with her here at her club, but she's recovering from a shoulder, sort of breast collarbone area injury. So we're going to be strategic and creative today, and we're going to do some video review. So I'm going to, for my silver cohort, this is going to be my video for the 4-to-1, where I'm going to tell her 4 things that I think she's doing well, and then I'll offer a constructive criticism of 1 thing that we think she can be doing better. So this will be the 4-to-1 video with a talented wrestler from Florida, Sophie. So we'll get into this. Of course, we're reviewing freestyle matches. So one thing I always tell Sophie, and I notice on almost all of her videos, and right here it kind of gets her, and this is what we've been talking about personally, is she stays in very good low position initially off of matches, closes the gap, presses the action, a lot of pressure on her opponents and partners even in practice. I see this all the time, which is a good thing, but the constructive criticism there, it's something we can do better, is sometimes in an effort to engage, to establish her inside control, she reaches, and oftentimes we find opponents getting in on her legs, or in this case, this other talented, very physical, strong wrestler, we've been watching this video here a couple times, with the throw by, gets a takedown there. So again, pressing the action, holding position, good things, pressuring the opponent, good things, but that momentary lapse where we, in an effort to engage and establish an inside control tie, we kind of come out of position. Either let people in our legs, or in this case, get a nice throw back. The other good thing I'll say about Sophie, and this goes beyond this particular match, all the matches I've been watching by the handfuls, eventually that same thing that I'm talking about, the pressuring the forward, closing the gap, same position, seems to open up some of her attacks. Again though here, about 1:20 into the match, the opponent's in on a second leg attack here. Now this is where I remember this one. Soph showed a lot of tenacity, a lot of grit, and a lot of good balance. So she's battling right now. The opponent got a single in the air. So again, not giving up, fighting hands, balancing and battling to the end, but right on the edge of the mat, we give up another 2. So again, caused by our constant pressure. And one thing that I do there, when they got my leg up, I try to pull their elbows, get their lock from my ankle to my knee so I can get my foot down, because your goal is when your legs up in the air is to get what? Weight on that foot and get it back down to the mat, right? So that's just a technical thing we can do there. So here's what I was talking about, and this often happens in Sophie's matches, and I enjoy this part a lot because, again, with her positioning, her aggressive hand fighting, constantly pushing the action forward and pressuring her opponent, she hits an Uchimata here where she kind of does a hip toss, was able to jack up her underhook. The other girl panicked a little bit right on the edge of the mat, tried to get her hips out. Sophie steps in and very adeptly from her judo background and just being comfortable, was able to get a throw on the edge of the mat there, tied it up 4-4 at that point. Would have given Sophie credit, but again, the other opponent, who's looking a little bit, maybe slightly bigger, even though this is 100 pounds, not 106. Still a little bit of size, I think, the opponent has here, able to get in on another takedown, make it 6-4. And then I think there's one more, but you might have already got dinged up a little bit, huh, at this point, or was it just on that throw on the edge? You got like the wind knocked out of you, something like that?
I did a little bit, but my shoulder didn't bother me until I got to that.
Okay, so that's the one you came down on your shoulder. Okay, so this is the moment where we kind of caused. Yep, here we go right there. Okay, yeah, exactly. Okay, so again, in the tie-up situation, this is what I was saying. This reminds me of that, so we can pause that one because we get into an injury time there. So again, what I like to teach, especially my women that are coming into the early college, the biggest difference you're always going to find moving from high school, whether you're male or female wrestler, into the college ranks, is how much more important hand fighting and position become, because everyone's good. I always tell everyone that when you go to a college team, almost everybody on that roster was the best person on their high school team. So even if you were the best person on your high school team, now you're just amongst your peers. And so the biggest thing that you start to realize that's super important that you maybe didn't think was so important in high school is your hand fighting and your positioning. So what I like to teach my more serious, technically, strategically focused young women who are training with me and the high school into college is kind of like an internal clock. So when I'm tied up, whether I'm controlling the tie, underhook, head position, collar tie, wrist, stagnant. If the internal clock in my head where I'm going like 1001, 1002, almost like a football quarterback, even if he can't see the rush, he knows there's a blindside rush. So he knows he only got a certain amount of time to get rid of that ball. I tell my wrestlers the same thing. It's like, if I'm stagnant, if I can be like 1001 and I can start to say 1002, maybe I'm in danger. So even when I'm controlling the tie, if it's getting stagnant, I kind of boom, 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 hand fight back to come in with a distinct advantage. And I think on that throw where you kind of dinged up your shoulder, and in other places like the throw by early on in that match, again, pressing the action, pressing forward, all great things. Position, maybe still giving up a little bit of size even at 100. But when you stay stagnant in your tie-ups, you're putting yourself in a little bit more danger. So anytime you have this internal clock, like even with your underhook or your collar tie, if it's not scoring within a couple seconds for you or getting you in a position to score, pop, 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 back out to open space, come back in to create a distinct advantage where you can get to your attacks. Let's go ahead and cut that off there for now. All right, so in continuation of some film study here with Sophie, we're looking like in the second match. I perused this one already in preparation for getting with her this evening and doing some film work. And so this one, we're going to see more of the same early on, lower than the opponent to start, which is always a good thing. Pressing the action, making them retreat, dominating the center with our hips. These are all good things. Got to a nice high crotch crackdown situation, which we were talking about earlier, and then battles through and just finishes behind here. And this is, I remember watching this video. She goes to an arm bar. That's what I can see. It's a little bit far. Yeah, that's a nice little arm bar. And what this reminded me was Helen Maroulis. And I tell my female athletes, my student athletes this all the time. She ends up with a nice pin here, running a beautiful arm bar. And this is what I tell a lot of my athletes. And I think Helen, obviously Maroulis, who's our gold medal winner for the U.S. Women's wrestler, I think she obviously, she definitely started out wrestling folk style in a boys' room when she was younger. And so you see her in the Olympics and in Worlds and Pan Ams, these types of tournaments, international tournaments, running bars, running cross-face cradles. And I love it because that's a good reminder of like, hey, here's a gold medalist. She's running bars in freestyle matches. There's nothing against the rules of doing it. If you have a good bar, you have a good cross-face cradle. And sometimes if people are really good at parterre, defending laces and guts, it's nice to have that little change up where you can throw a bar in. And so that was a good example of you having that awareness and applying folk style back to freestyle. And again, your pressing action got right to that shot, a little bit more aggressive this one. She was maybe not as strong as the former opponent. Got to your crackdown, drove through and finished. That was good. All right, hit that one. All right, so here we're going to get into a third video against a very tough opponent, and I have some personal experience with this opponent. I did a clinic out of Kissimmee, Osceola, and this happens to be where this opponent's from, and this girl caught my eye. She's an excellent wrestler in her own right, and so this is a great match to get a gauge of how technically and strategically seasoned and experienced Sophie has become, because this other girl's very athletic and very aggressive and does some good positional things once in a while. So yep, right to that single. This girl's very aggressive. I saw this in her practice. So again, I like to stalk my opponents, keep my hands almost to the mat. I'm always trying to keep my head and hands between my opponent's attack and my hips, at all costs. So instead of in effort to come and make contact, which is a good trait you have, we just got to be a little bit more disciplined and consistent. So again, the girl didn't finish the takedown, ended up with a stalemate, but here we are 10 seconds later, girl's back in on a shot. This time kind of a double. She switched to a single on the other side. So, and Soph has great hips, good. Oh man, and there's that Uchimata again right on the edge. Sophie has very good hips, very good instinct on her throws. She feels it. It's not something that you can necessarily even teach. I mean, she has some judo background and some experience in wrestling that has contributed, but Sophie comes out with, well, they changed it around a couple times. They ended up with a 2-0 there on the edge. So exposure from the defense. A little bit of hip and Uchimata. So again, these are great traits. I mean, you can practice, but the instinct part of it comes from Sophie's own. Now Soph's in on a nice attack. Oh yeah, I remember watching this. She goes with a nice inside trip here to finish. So again, aggressive. Again, it's a great opponent she's wrestling here. And I think if we clean up when we're stalking the opponents, keeping our hands and elbows a little bit lower, we can save some energy and create a little efficiency, and even save a couple points here and there against a opponent where a couple points. This is something I've been working on with a lot of my student athletes that I work with more regularly, is keying in on re-attacks. So using my position to cause them to be aggressive and take shots like you've done 3 times here, but their head is getting below your chin. So the next stop is your hips and legs. If you can start matching their level with your head position and not let them touch your legs. I always tell my students the best leg attack defense is do not let them touch your legs. And here we are 3 times, and you're up 4-0. I mean, you're winning, you're dominating this match, but you're spending a lot of energy and a lot of time defending, which you do great. Your hips are amazing. You're comfortable in that position. We discussed earlier that this may be because many times you've been undersized in your brackets, and you're adapting a style that's sort of more reactionary than you probably would even like, and you're finding ways to score in scrambles, which is indispensable. And I think once the size comes, this is what I told you even last time, I think you're the favorite to win states down here in Florida. I think you're going to have the size finally, and with everything you've developed, your defensive strategies to survive being undersized, and your good hips, your aggressiveness on top, you definitely put a lot of pressure on the shoulders. And I like how you do these things too, where you step up. You got to be very careful on those step ups though. I want to almost scoop and bring them forward with my chest instead of stepping, trying to lift her up. So you see how she got to your ankle. Yeah. It's like you try to scoop and bring up, then do your pullbacks and things like that. It's just where your foot is, because it was a little survival mode there. She saw your foot, she feels herself being lifted, she's going to grab what's there. Even though the ref's probably explains they're like open up, still it stops your momentum of getting that score there. And I think they're trying to discuss what the ref was, like, is he put her back down or caution? Yeah, I think if we can just, you're coming always hard with collar ties and underhooks, but you're coming in from an attack, probably in an effort to send a message, which again is a good thing, but I still like to do that from inside. Come up, pop, and then move them. And then, like I was saying in the previous videos, if you get in those tie-ups, pop, back in, climbing up the rope, getting to your advantage, where we want 80%, 75% advantages, not 50-50 positions, not 60-40, and even a 75-25 where I'm dominating the head position, dominating the tie, but it's staying stagnant. Just imagine you're losing percentage points on your scoring every second that goes by. Let's say like drops 10 percentage points of your going to score now, because you're just not, them bulky, headlock only wrestlers. That's their, that's not your style, and that's not how you're going to win the NCAAs. Just hanging out, hoping for that one throw every match. It's good to have that danger element, like especially how you have the instinctive hips, especially on the edge. It seems like you let it fly a little bit more. That's a kind of a common thing. So I always say it's good to have a danger element in your back pocket, because then it backs aggressive wrestlers off. You throw someone, they get a lot more hesitant to tie up or do whatever caused that throw. And this is a nice long match because these are very equal opponents, and you guys have a history of wrestling each other, is what I'm learning. Yeah, and she seemed nice. When I went, there we go. So that was a nice down block over here. So that's what I was talking about too. So you demonstrated there where you match, and this is what I noticed about you too. You make good adjustments within a match. So you let, oftentimes we're seeing people get in on you, and you stick to your game plan, and you get to your throws. And in this case, you matched her level all the way down. She didn't touch her legs, and you got a kind of a simple go behind score there. That was a perfect example of what I was kind of constructive criticism before. That was a good example of you executing that very thing. So it's there, But I think, in a match that's going back and forth, or a match that one takedown is going to be the difference. Maybe you making a world team, a Pan Am team, a blood round at a big tournament. that positioning and not giving up that time and that energy fighting in those scrambles early in matches may come back to help you win against some of your tougher opponents. It's kind of trying to get your bearings on, like, okay, how much time is, how aggressive. I want this last takedown for the tech, but I also don't want to. Yeah, and she got that. Oh, yeah. And so I think that's what kind of happened there. It's like now I think right there I witnessed you kind of backing off on your aggressiveness to try to just pick that one perfect takedown. You're up 8-0. It's like one more, but I'm going to be a little cautious, a little more protective about it. And that little hesitation allowed her to get back in on her legs, and she just ran through it. But she must have came down hard, huh? She went off camera there, but the girl ended up with an injury time here. What do we got on? So she come back quick.
I think that there's a little bit.
Just curious. I didn't watch the end of this match yet. This is such a good match. Sophie's up 8-2. The girl just got an aggressive takedown, but kind of got dinged up on the way down. Went off camera, so it didn't see her hit her head. We're going to see how this match finishes. We've got 1:13 left. And I'm sure the other girl is going to bring some offense. She just had the injury time. She just scored a big takedown. Her coaches are probably encouraging her, like, hey, get right back to that. She's got to be aggressive here. So she's catching her breath. She's catching her mind. She knows she's down big. She got nothing to lose. She got good coaches over there kissing me. So let's see what happens here. Last minute. It's going to be good. Yep, she's coming out aggressive, physically. The opponent is. So does a good job of establishing inside control all the time. That's a big thing, for better or worse. A lot of the criticisms I'm saying are good traits that maybe need refined or a little bit more disciplined. Where the elbows are, where the head is, where the level is. Okay, we got a little 2-on-1 slowing down. Actually, I like that. You do a good job of wrist control too. I noticed this in your other videos. Not so much in these ones because I think these are great opponents. But some of your, yep. Focusing on a nice single. Keeping the ankle and the elbow, keeping it high, making her balance. Getting it to the mat, looking for a finish here. Oh, good scramble. Great scramble. Wow. I wish the cameraman did a better job. Girls are doing a much better job wrestling than the cameraman's doing. So Anaya ends up with the takedown there off a great scramble. Kind of got into a far ankle scramble. So in those cases, height and pressure is very important. And you kind of got knocked to your hip there for a split second. That allowed her to gain the advantage. So it gets right back to her front headlock. We're down to a few seconds. Wins the match. Great job. All right, excellent. All right, good.